I can quote quite a lot of experiences, but one thing that always strikes my mind, and I would always cherish on that, which drastically, that was my first experience of removing a mechanical restraint, a helmet that I put in place, obviously, which was a recommendation from the GP, from the social worker, and obviously. And then it's last year, it was a success story, I would say, that we completely removed that restraint in place because of the interventions that we put in place, because of the way how we worked collaboratively with the staff, with the MDT, and obviously the OT took a lead on that. And then the outcome was a total removal of a helmet, which would be considered as a mechanical restraint. So I think that is a sort of a success story in terms of how we work towards that reduction in restrictions that we put in place for residents. So that's a bit of a snippet of a very positive patient outcome. And also, I think the comments and the anecdotes and the feedback that we receive from the external agencies, from parents, I don't think so that can be underestimated, because they had seen their child growing up with those lots of self-harm in them and the need for helmet, and then coming out of that after 10 years of introduction of restraints, that's a big sort of positive and a very sort of success outcome in terms of how others view that as well.
Very similar to Sheeba in respect to that, there's one particular testimony that stands out to me, and it was when I was working in the day services with an old lady who had an eye condition. She was blind. It was a PMLD service. She was old in age, paralysed, had a stroke, so lost the use of her left side. And she had a learning disability. She would speak in sentences, but it would come across as mumbling, so you couldn't make out what she was trying to say. So over the years, her kind of life got smaller and smaller. And I can remember reading a social history, and it said that she doesn't like to socialise with others. And I think that's such a massive statement to make. And obviously the word gets around on the shop floor, and you hear staff saying that she doesn't like physical contact because that's just the way she is. So I started to explore, and I noticed that when you would physically make that contact, it's almost as though she would throw away your touch. So she'd grab it and throw it away as if to say, don't do that. And then I had the opportunity, Sheeba gave me the opportunity to go on intensive interaction training course. And it was just, for me, really eye-opening. So I went on this course and I learnt about intensive interaction. Just going to read a brief statement of what intensive interaction is. And it describes it as both highly social and mainly responsive in nature, rather than being directive or goal or target orientated. The approach focuses on the fundamentals of communication as a means of establishing and developing improved social communication exchange. And it's mainly led by the patient. So with that in mind, I started to implement intensive interaction. And to cut a long story short, this little old lady held my hand at the end of it all. And, at the beginning, she didn't want any social interaction, as it stated. But then I would talk in a good ear, and we would hang out, we would hold hands and just be in the presence of each other. I thought that was really good, yeah.
We have quite a lot of standardized assessments that we use where we look at data. Obviously, we look at how did they perform, what was their level of performance, what was their level of independence around, their dressing scale, or around being able to access the community, or making their own breakfast, and then how they progressed over the years. So there's quite a lot of data, statistics that we do, and we produce it on an annual basis, and we look at it continuously, I think we evaluate it, we reevaluate it, we monitor the progress. And I think that gives me personally a real sense of satisfaction of a positive outcome, or I would say that's sort of, as I said, a real sense of satisfaction, as an occupational therapist.
I think in terms of statistics, it's evidence-based practice that we as OTs follow, and I think putting that into action, it confirmed the quote that I gave earlier, and it kind of all falls into place. And it's important that it triangulates from case formulations to MOHOS and to OT goals. And I think if you find the person, it naturally triangulates and it falls into place.